Huh. That's super interesting. Another thing you refer to in your book along similar lines is what you call like a fifth gospel, the Gospel of Peter. So why is it called like the cross gospel? An interesting name for it, at least I think. And like, why isn't the Gospel of Peter included in our New Testament?
Yeah, well, okay. In the case of the Gospel of Peter, I think it was interested in getting included in the canon.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And a bishop, a guy named Bishop Serapion, oversaw some churches in Syria, and he allowed the Gospel of Peter to be read, which meant
Huh.
he thought it was okay and
Hmm.
canonical. So go ahead and read Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Peter if you like.
Hmm.
Then he read it and found out what was in it and said, oh, wait a minute, just a second, hold it, stop, don't read it anymore. Okay, so it was canonical for a little while and then lost out. Now, why?
Bummer.
Why do we call it the cross gospel? Well, first of all, Zach, we don't have all of it. We have a large chunk. It starts with Pontius Pilate washing his hands and letting Jesus be crucified. And then it goes right up through the passion story to the resurrection. We call it the cross gospel because the cross of Jesus comes out of the tomb when Jesus is resurrected. And of course, the whole story is fantastic. Jesus' head reaches up into the clouds. Two angels come out with him. Their heads go up into the clouds. And this cross comes bounding out of the tomb following Jesus. And then the voice from heaven cries out, have you preached to them that sleep, that is to the dead? And Jesus doesn't answer. The angels don't answer. It's the cross. The cross, I guess, looks up to heaven and says, yes. So this is why it's called the cross gospel. And that was suggested by John Dominic Crossan, a scholar who worked on it 35 years ago.
Hmm.
And he tried to argue that this story was the original story, that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are based on it. And nobody buys that today. I'm not sure if Crossan himself buys it anymore.
Hmm.
No, the Gospel of Peter was written in the middle of the 2nd century. And its purpose was to answer the skeptics like Celsus. Celsus going around saying, why should we believe that Jesus was really significant, a son of God, or resurrected in a special way? Who saw all this? Hysterical women. This woman that used to have an evil spirit, Mary Magdalene, from a wretched village. He doesn't know what he's talking about, by the way, because Mary Magdalene was from Magdala, which was like Newport Beach, if you know anything about California. Nobody had called Newport Beach or Laguna Beach a wretched little village. But anyway, he didn't know that. And on the northwest shore of the Sea of Galilee, Magdala, before it was destroyed by the Romans in 66, 67 AD, was a fantastic town. So she was from an upscale waterfront property. And of course, he says, oh, well, who is she? Who cares what she thinks? He's very chauvinist. Women don't count. They're terrible witnesses. And so what the Gospel of Peter is doing is saying, hey, just a minute, I can tell the story differently. The risen Jesus appeared to Jewish elders, to all the Roman soldiers, to the Roman centurion, actually gives him a name, calls him Petronius. And they all went and told Pilate. Why? Then the whole city of Jerusalem comes out, runs to the tomb. They see angels coming up and down from heaven and everything else. And so I think what the Gospel of Peter is reckless apologetic. It's very exaggerated. It's trying to answer the question of why should we believe Jesus is divine? Why should we believe he's resurrected? Because everybody saw him get resurrected. And he had divine features. I mean, my gosh, his head went up into the clouds. Only a God could do that. So that's what the Gospel of Peter is. It's not historical. It's just reckless 2nd century apologetic. And the church was wise to see it for what it was and say, forget it. You're not getting into the New Testament.